Welcome back. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And now I have for you my Game Week 3 team selection. Not only that, but I'll also be answering some of the popular questions that you guys have sent in a quick fire round style. So make sure to stay tuned for that. If you could subscribe, we're going for 3,000 subscribers now after surpassing 2,000, which I'm very, very grateful for. Thank you so much. And remember, there is currently 50% off Fantasy Football Hub right now, which you can see right there. The link is in the description. I mean, for £3.25 a month, team reveals from some of the world's best: Ben Crellin, Rich Clark. You can't get that anywhere else. You can't get that type of access to the world's best for £3.25 a month anywhere else. You've got the My Team AI tool, which has helped so many do so well thus far, and a whole host of other features. I would strongly recommend you check it out. Link is in the description. 50% off. Take action because the offer expires soon. So now that that's been covered and I've given you a little present to start the day, let's hop into the video. Right, I've got Sells in goal, and my perspective on him is that this is going to go one of two ways. It's either going to go really, really, really well this week, or I'm going to see about a 1-2 pointer tops. Wolves have a lot of attacking talent, right? Don't let the fact that they conceded 6 against Chelsea blind you from the fact that Strand Larson and Cunha, they were a lot to handle. And they are a lot to handle, right? I mean, pace, power, technical quality, they had good positional awareness, good combinations between them. They ran the channels a lot, and they're just a handful. They got a lot of energy. And against a defence such as Nottingham Forest, which is good, they are still capable of certainly hurting them. So I expect Wolves to have a decent amount of shots. It's just whether Forest can limit the better chances and Wolves really being able to get inside with them. If they do keep a clean sheet, like I said, I'm expecting a decent volume of shots, and thus I'm very confident that I'll probably pick up a haul. On the flip side, I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves scored. I mean, like I said, I really like the Nottingham Forest defence. I think it's very well so far. I think overall it did well last year, even though the defensive output wasn't there due to poor keeping. But as of now, I'm still quite confident that I can potentially get a clean sheet out of this, given how well they've defended so far in the Premier. In terms of future thoughts, I have absolutely zero plans to wildcard. I think at least Anfield presents me with an opportunity for a lot of upside, and I just don't really see the point making a goalkeeper transfer, especially when they're paying for a good defense. So I would just be keeping him for the foreseeable future, probably the long term, and just letting it run until I wildcard. Now, you can see that there's been one change in the defense. As opposed to Conte being on the bench, he starts now over Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall, obviously, last time around was benched and only got me a 1-pointer away at Bournemouth. Now, to be honest, I do expect him to start against Spurs, given it's at home. However, the fixtures just, especially when I have Son here, no way I'm minimizing my upside, right? Conte, on the other hand, this is what I bought him for. These 4 fixtures here, one of the best. Honestly, I think these 4 fixtures here are the best 4 in a row that any team has across this Premier League. So if there's ever a time to go on Villa, it's now. I do think his goal threat from set play is a bit underrated. I don't think people really talk about that ever, but he's actually quite good in the air. He manages to get to a lot of start. Decent leap on him. Good, just good sense of intelligence to be able to get into the positions in the first place, something I've noticed. So I'm more than happy to hold him, and I actually do see a little bit of upside there. The rest kind of just picks itself, right? Like, Barco's not in the league, and I don't need to make this video for a reason. So Robinson, obviously great fixture and attacking upside from open play. Love that. Did save me last time, and that's how he got his route to a 7-pointer. I mean, an assist and 2 bonus after conceding. Great. And then Gabriel, because why wouldn't I? I will speak about him quickly. I've seen a lot of wildcards go away from Arsenal, and their plan is to bring them back in with free transfers. 4th free transfer, the 5th and the 6th. For Game Week 6. I don't like it because I think you're trying to create maybe a team that is a little too ideal for Fantasy Premier League, whereby every single thing goes your way. So there's no holes in your team that you have to fix. There's no problems that come up. There are no opportunities that come up in the meantime, which you would like to capitalize on. The team essentially runs perfectly. So you'll have the free transfers there anyway. I doubt that happens. And if it does, if you do arrive with not having used a free transfer, I imagine you would have elsewhere. And the other thing is, you're essentially betting that they don't do particularly well in 3, 4, and 5. 5 we can talk about closer to the time. I don't think it's as bad for their attacking assets, nor City's attacking assets this time around. I expect a less KG affair. Marino may change that, but we'll see. However, 3 and 4, you can score against Brighton. But the way they play, don't get me wrong, good team. But you could definitely score against Brighton. We've seen what you can do away at Spurs, just given the way they play as well. So I don't really see any reason to employ that strategy. I'm heavily against it. As you know, I've been super bullish on Arsenal all preseason. all season so far. I'm continuing with that trend. And if you are wildcarding or are thinking about relinquishing Arsenal assets, I really would think again. I think you're just making the game very difficult for yourself and trying to micromanage where there just doesn't need. Moving on to the midfield, you will see that this is where I have made my transfer. Morgan Rogers comes into the side in place of Christopher Nkunku, and he came into the side before his price rise and before Nkunku's price drop. So I guess you could say it's a 0.2 swing. I've gained 0.1 million in value, and my team value is actually very healthy. I mean, again, no need to overcomplicate it, right? I'll talk about Rogers a bit. Wink's obviously going to be on the bench. Smith Rowe, good fixture, 10-pointer last time, obvious. Son, 16-pointer last time, likely to play number 9 in a heavy transition-based game at Newcastle. Why wouldn't I? Saka is Saka again. I think this type of fixture is very good for him, a little bit more open, more time for him to work his magic. I imagine he has a high frequency of actions anyway. Against Villa, I thought they definitely could have used him more. That's something I noticed. In the bigger games, Arsenal probably don't get as much out of Saka as I would like personally. I think he's so good and by far their best attacking player that you could really leverage his qualities, and they should maybe change the system, accommodate for that a little bit more. However, against Brighton, that probably won't be as much of an issue, and I imagine with him getting so much of the ball, he'll do well for me. And the conditions are certainly there. Rogers, I mean, I went into a lot of depth on Rogers in the last game week 3 preview, and I would strongly recommend to watch that if you would like some analysis into Rogers. The Regis Digest version is great fixtures. Like I said, I really, really like the fixtures. I do think that his progressive responsibilities will be somewhat relinquished, and they'll be passed on to the rest of the teams in a variety of forms. Passing or someone else carrying and becoming more central, etc., etc. I do think that will be stationed a little bit closer to Watkins and thus arrive in the box a little bit more as well, which is something Emery's spoken about. And the other thing is he's 5 million. I now have 1.5 million, right? Next week, if I fancy getting Cole Palmer, I can do that and still have 1 million. Next week, if I'm like, you know what, Lewis Hall's not really cutting it, I don't really fancy playing Gabriel away at Spurs, let me go and get Robertson for those 2 fixtures, who's looked really good, by the way. I mean, positionally, he's looked really good. I'll touch on him a little bit, actually, because I didn't in the Game Week 3 preview. He's been playing this role whereby Luis Diaz has been stretched really wide at times, and as opposed to like a left 8 crushing the box, sometimes it's been Robertson. Robertson. There's been a lot of underlaps, overlaps, and just a high frequency of those type of runs, similar to Robinson in that sense, actually. Very similar to Robinson. So he's definitely someone I would watch out for. I imagine Trent's output still exceeds his, but if you can get a little bit lucky with Robertson, you could do very, very well. I'm going to keep that in there because I'm going for natural video and I barely do any cuts anyway. So that's that. And yeah, those are my reasons for Morgan Rogers. Yeah, you could argue that I've only had a small sample size, and my deduction on the fact that he won't have as much progressive responsibility against a quote unquote, and I mean this way, lesser side is unjust, and that's fine. But as a content creator, I'm in the game of making projections, right? That's what I have to do. So yeah, the 1.5 million is really nice because I can upgrade Son, I can upgrade Lewis Hall, and the other guy I can upgrade is Alexander Isak. I have spoken about the strength of Villa's fixtures. I think after the international break, Ollie Watkins would have had enough time to acclimatise to the Premier League following his Euros hangover. I think the fixtures are brilliant, and the first 2 would be at home after the international break. So Isak to Watkins, nice, easy route. We know Newcastle struggle away from home. They will be away from home for both games after the international break, and therefore, great opportunity. Haaland, we'll talk about why I'm giving him the armband in the next section. Havertz, look, like I said, I think these 2 fixtures, Brighton at home, Spurs away, yeah, sure, they're good footballing sides, but they offer you something. They really do. Villa, I thought, offered Arsenal enough as well. I don't really think Arsenal capitalised on it, but I think given one of these games at home and Spurs offer you even more than Villa, I'm bullish on Kai Havertz. He did enough in the Villa game for me as well, which is the hardest of the first 4, from an attacking standpoint, to show me that he'll be fine. I mean, he made a lot of runs beyond the last line. He found himself in good positions. The performance probably went slightly under the radar because sometimes he didn't get picked out. Actually, a lot of the times he didn't get picked out, and his own actions and thing could have been a little bit sharper. But apart from that, I'm super bullish. Intend for him to go nowhere. Everyone would probably design by him Game Week 6, I would say. So yeah, I think team's looking very healthy, and I'm confident going into this week. Finally, some of the hot topics for the week, and just questions that have been sent in to me. So I thought, in a very quick fire style, I will answer them. A lot of things have been covered, especially my Game Week 3 preview. I would recommend watching that. I thought it was a good video. Covered a lot of stuff in depth. So if you haven't, the link will be in the description. It's my last video anyway. Go and check that out. Okay. Son to Palmer, I would say no. Give it one more week, just one more week to see how Chelsea perform. I mean, Wolves are really open to getting transitioned on. I imagine Palace will be so far, far less, especially with the three at the back in general. It's just a lot harder. Or at least a complete cut. And if you're going to go on transition a lot in that style of game, I would wait. I think the Sun fixture is really nice for him. I think playing at 9, there's so many qualities that he has as an FPL asset and a footballer that when he is to play up top and accumulate the chance volume that an system creates, just let him be, man. Honestly, if he gets a run at 9 for a while, I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes like the best asset in the game, because that is how deadly he is. I wouldn't do it. Keep the 0.5, keep the transfer, take the information, and you know what? Considering you've got an IB coming, patience is usually a good route. Usually. Isaac to Watkins, my argument is the exact same. Give it one more week. Right? You still have to find 0.5, even if you've got it in the bank, maybe you can use it somewhere else. Patience over the IB. Isaac's got a good fixture. Just let it run. Buy Madueke, again, exhibit patience, in my opinion. Yes, he scored a hat-trick, but will he do that against Palace in completely different conditions? Is he set to start week in, week out? Obviously, he'll start Palace because he scored a hat-trick and came off early, midweek. But I think when he's not a player that's performed output-wise to such a high level in the past in the Premier League, just let it ride and see what happens. We'll come back to Saka, Salah in Game Week 4. Saleze, no, I wouldn't. I spoke about this a lot in my Game Week preview. Again, a good play, and he has Leicester at home in Game Week 4, so even if he blanks in 3, I would keep him. One reason I really like him is the fact that he dominates that inside left channel, that left half space zone. He does so consistently. The fact that they have wing backs means that he doesn't really need to cover width, both in terms of attacking patterns or defensively. Their setup is one where he can remain in close proximity to the striker and the goal, just relative to other people at his price category. Top player as well. So when you put him in those positions, he's got the quality to leverage and get output. I wouldn't do that. Captaincy. Spoke so much in last video, right, about how bullish I am on Haaland. I don't really see West Ham being able to stop him. Yeah, sure, you can argue they've got a bit better. I'm still sold on that, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe a little bit. I don't think it's been a mass improvement, though, from what I've seen so far, which honestly, apart from the Villa game, too much. Yeah, for me, 100% Haaland for all the reasons I discussed in my game preview. If not him, if you don't own him, then it becomes a little bit tougher. I would probably have to go for, I'm going to say Bukayo Saka or Heung-min Son. I spoke in my last video about how I don't think that Liverpool are going to go there and roll over Man United easily. I spoke about how I still have concerns over Salah's overall output at 12.5, especially like in this type of game against United. I'm not sure how it goes. So I would go Bukayo Saka or Heung-min Son. I think Saka's definitely the safer one. Son at 9 is always a high ceiling, high threat. In Wemo on a wild card. All right, so this is a super close one for me. I would say no. I really like the fixture this week, and there's no Tony. But if Tony's to be back next week, then Spurs away dramatically reduces. And then you have City away. And I just think you could probably get there in 6 anyway. So for me, marginally, I wouldn't. Now, the Saka to Salah one is one we're going to discuss in a lot of depth in Game Week 4, I imagine. But people are lining other moves up to potentially facilitate this, right? I wouldn't do it for the same reasons I spoke about earlier. I just don't think that you need to sell Arsenal assets. I think they've got enough in the tank to do well in Game Week 4 and this week. I think Forest are underrated defensively. I think people could definitely be surprised by the type of performance they put in at Anfield. I do not think they're a walkover at all. People acting as if this like nailed halt. It definitely isn't. Neither is the Arsenal boys, right? Neither are they. But the usage of a transfer and to find 2.5 million just for a short term so you can captain him in Game Week 5, I don't think so. I think it puts a mass over-reliance on Salah's performance in Game Week 5. I think Even captaining like Haaland or something against Arsenal isn't actually that bad, just on the assumption that I think there'll be a few more goals in that game and that I think he's going to score. And you're basically asking him to hold to pay this transfer off and for the other guys not to. I just think you're putting too many eggs in one basket, as they would say on Love Island. So that's about it for me. We will go into Saka to Salah in much more depth. This video isn't intended to be long. I'd much rather it be kind of short, quick fire. You get your answers and you can go. The other videos are for longer, more detailed, slower discussion. But yeah, I hope that answers all of your questions. The very best of luck this game week. If you could subscribe, I would be so appreciative. Thank you so much. Like the video if you enjoyed. And I shall see you on the other side. Have a great weekend. Good luck and goodbye.